Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. I'll be hosting today's show. Up first here on satellite imagery, we've got a weak low pressure here crossing the Alaska Peninsula. That brought about 4/10 of an inch of rain earlier on in Cold Bay as that came across. That now shifting on to the southeast with generally clouds, dry conditions, light winds, and areas of fog left behind with not much storminess at all out here over the Bering Sea. Otherwise, early in that again, you can see thunderstorms developing here from the Yukon and kind of isolated, scattered by early to mid-afternoon across the eastern interior here. More widespread back to the west in this batch of clouds here from just south of the Brooks Range there, the Kobuk Valley, on down into the Nulato Hills. Even a lightning strike showed up over extreme eastern Norton Sound earlier this afternoon. Some clearing here along the southwest coastal areas, but this really isn't showing up all the low clouds that are out over the Bering Sea, although there is some clearing out here west of Adak on out towards Shimia. Then Shimia, you get into the dense fog. They had a quarter-mile visibility throughout much of the afternoon. Also, low clouds of fog plaguing the eastern Beaufort Sea coast with visibilities at 2 miles or below there from mostly east of the Barrow area on over toward Kaktovik with better conditions back to the west. Cape Lisburne actually seeing some sunshine. And generally cloudy here, southern Alaska, isolated showers, band of moisture producing some light rain today from just north of Kodiak Island there across the southern Kenai Peninsula, where up to 4/10 of an inch of rainfall on the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Otherwise, Anchor Point picked up about 1/3 of an inch. Farther to the east here, band mostly south of the coast, so Cordova only picking up 6/100 of an inch. And then Yakutat also had 1/3 of an inch precipitation during the day today. And then about 2/10 of Juneau, and more showery here in the central interior. Showers becoming more isolated toward Sitka, but skies are still cloudy. And then southern areas, Ketchikan, Craig picked up about 1/3 of an inch of precipitation as well. Light rain, but generally persistent. A lot of clouds here with that weak system. Another system down here to the southwest. A lot of clouds here to the southwest, already streaming to the coastline there. That's going to keep the moisture. I'll just keep feeding moisture in, and you'll see occasional precipitation throughout the night there for the Panhandle. Otherwise, weak trough right through here. Again, isolated showers over the Aleutian Range up across the western Alaska Peninsula area with drier conditions back to the west. Forecast for tonight, that trough more or less stays in place there. So that's going to keep a shower threat over the northeast Bristol Bay area. Maybe Kodiak Island, just looking mostly cloudy there. And then diminishing thunderstorms over the interior tonight. Some of those definitely persisting, lasting past midnight, maybe even on toward morning, with a general decrease in showers as well. But skies will remain partly to mostly cloudy. Low clouds, fog, especially eastern Beaufort Sea coast, but could develop anywhere tonight along the coastline. And maybe some low clouds, fog, drizzle from the Chukchi Sea. Areas of fog again tonight, especially for Gamble here on St. Lawrence Island. On down into the Pribilos, very light winds, light westerly drift. Really light winds here, a couple of high centers over the Aleutians. So light winds will result in low clouds and fog most areas, especially the low clouds, maybe not so much the fog. But there will be areas of that, especially out toward Shimia and possibly along the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula as well. And moving along to first day of the weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, thunderstorms along a trough here up over the northern interior from roughly the, say, Tok Northway up to Eagle, maybe a little farther to the north there, and then eastward out toward Kobuk Valley areas. Hopefully mostly sunny. Noatak Valley, Kivlina, Kotzebue, and the Seward Peninsula. North Slope breaking out sunshine in the afternoon, but the low clouds, fog again hanging through most of the afternoon for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. High pressure trying to ridge up here, weekly ridging up along the west coast. That'll make for, again, the partly and mostly sunny skies here over the inland areas of the Seward Peninsula, on down across Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, possibly in the Kuskokwim Valley. You're going to see a pretty good chance of thunderstorms and showers along this trough axis right through here from the northern Kuskokwim Valley right up to the Alaska Range. And scattered showers tending to increase in the afternoon over the Talkeetnas, Chugach Mountains, possibly the Susitna Valley, and again along the North Gulf Coast, especially over the eastern Copper River Basin and the Wrangell Mountains. Best chance of showers in the afternoon. And again, that moisture, which pushes off mostly to the south of that system there, already weakening and pushing by tomorrow afternoon there, but that will leave some showers behind. A lot of moisture here off the coast, light rain, fog, drizzle, or showers. Lots of clouds associated with an upper level system that'll slowly move inland there. And then for Sunday, looking like decreasing showers in the afternoon after that system kicks on through. So best chance moisture will be in the morning. Look for things to improve across the Panhandle throughout the afternoon. Maybe some sunshine showing up in areas, inland areas here, with showers persisting over toward the border and up to the north there from mostly north of Juneau, Haines, Skagway, Klondike Highway, those areas. See a better chance of showers in, say, Elfin Cove or Yakutat, which maybe you'll see some clearing. But there'll be quite an area of low clouds and fog off the coast here, and also from the North Gulf Coast. Copper River Basin, partly to mostly sunny. South Central Alaska, partly sunny. Thunderstorm threat now, possibly into the Susitna Valley, and then definitely back along the Alaska Range here, but cutting off down toward Iliamna. Mostly sunny, Kodiak. High pressure building in, looking good here over the western interior from Bristol Bay, actually, across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. More sunshine in the Kuskokwim Valley, and then on up to the western Brooks Range and the western North Slope. Eastern North Slope not too bad either, with still the persistent fog and low cloud threat along the Beaufort Sea coast. Maybe some drizzle, low clouds and fog there. Western Seward Peninsula and the Bering Strait. Otherwise, high pressure here holding now southwest of Kuskokwim Bay, western Bristol Bay, just east of the Pribilofs. Light winds, lots of low clouds, areas of fog, possibly dense fog, but definitely it'll be around. Otherwise, just a risk of a shower out to the west. This system staying to the south here. This cold front up here eventually is going to push eastward and try to come into the northwest interior Sunday night and Monday. But high pressure will hold here, definitely in the first of next week there off the southwest coast and over the eastern Bering Sea. And looks like, again, the thunderstorm threat a little farther to the east tomorrow or for Sunday than what we'll see tomorrow. Otherwise dry, partly sunny for the North Gulf Coast. Light winds Prince William Sound, partly sunny in the afternoon there as well. Moving on to the low temperatures for tonight, rather mild, 50 to 55 here over the central interior into the Kuskokwim Valley, and then upper 40s, lower 50s. On down to the lower Kuskokwim Delta area with mid 40s along the coast, Pribilofs, lower 40s, lower to mid for the Aleutians, lower to mid 30s for the eastern and central Beaufort Sea coast, upper 40s near 50 for the Panhandle, and 40s to lower 50s for south central Alaska. Highs tomorrow, a lot of 70s here through the central interior from the Kobuk Valley down to, say, Ambler eastward into the upper Yukon Valley. 75 forecast high at Fort Yukon, right around 70 there in the greater Fairbanks area. Cooler in the Copper River Basin, 65 to 70-ish for the Susitna Valley, and upper 50s to near 60 for the Panhandle. And for the lows the following morning, again, lower to mid-50s central interior, mid-30s central Arctic coast near freezing over at Kaktovik, 50 for Kotzebue, upper 40s for the along the coast here, 40 St. Lawrence Island, upper 40s for the Panhandle. And then the afternoon highs looking pretty good, kind of beginning of a warming trend here. Edging up a little bit there for the upper Yukon Valley, really from the north of the White Mountains. 75, 67, maybe even up to 80, possibly even 81 in some areas up there. Cooling back to near 70 here to the west, and then 46 Shishmaref, 40s, lower 50s for the Arctic coast, mid-50s for the North Slope, and 65, mid-60s all the way down into northeast Bristol Bay. Susitna Valley starting a warming trend as well that'll last into next week. Looks like lower 70s showing up for Talkeetna, Trapper Creek, and those areas down to Big Lake, maybe 73, and near 70 for the Anchorage area. Otherwise 60s right along Cook Inlet zone, 60s for Prince William Sound, pushing up to near 70 or in the lower 70s, Copper River Basin. Southeast coast, so stuck in the upper 50s to near 60 range, and 40s out over the Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First flying weather graphic here showing a lot of IFR tomorrow morning along the Arctic coast into the North Slope, and then south of the Brooks Range, nothing but VFR. Some marginal VFR here from say southern 40-mile country down across eastern Alaska Range to the Wrangell Mountains, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Mostly VFR for the Panhandle except up north and over toward the border, pretty marginal. IFR Bering Strait along the southwest coast, across St. Lawrence Island to the Pribilofs, on down Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, and all of the Aleutians all the way out to the Komodorskis. Then for the afternoon, IFR central eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Looks like the North Slope will be mostly VFR. South across the Brooks Range into the interior. Marginal VFR here with some moisture along the western Alaska Range. Also across the 40-mile country southward, across a good portion of the Copper River Basin down to the North Gulf Coast, possibly into northeast Prince William Sound, but that's pretty iffy. IFR along the coast remains here through the Bering Strait and the Chukchi Sea, and also the Aleutians still IFR, as well as the Pribilofs and St. Lawrence Island. Outlook for Sunday morning, good VFR here, north central interior in the northern half of the state till you get out toward the coastline there. Same thing back toward the northwest coast, IFR through the Bering Strait, Norton Sound, socked in with IFR, and right along the south coast there. Marginal to IFR along the southwest coast into Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. Marginal VFR again here along the Alaska Range, and then down possibly in the Talkeetnas and possibly down to the North Gulf Coast there, northeast Prince William Sound into Cordova. Marginal VFR for all of the Panhandle. Afternoon forecast. Pretty much VFR, just about all VFR here for the interior. Some lingering marginal VFR there along the, say, Denali Park in those areas in that part of the range. And then IFR along the coastline, much of the Bering Sea, but you can see breaking out to VFR here around Atka and up, but well south of the Pribilofs, marginal for most of the central and eastern Aleutians, the Alaska Peninsula holding IFR out west and becoming VFR across the Panhandle, marginal VFR along the eastern North Gulf Coast, Yakutat, possibly Elfin Cove. Passes tomorrow, Anatuvik looking good. VFR, possible thunderstorms, and chance afternoon thunderstorms as well as for Adigan with Lake Clark and Merrill. Marginal VFR. At times, rainy, should be a VFR day, even though there'll be clouds and a few afternoon showers around, risk of a thunderstorm, but it'll be VFR variety. And windy, VFR becoming marginal, enough moisture could build in the afternoon there along with some thunderstorm activity. And for Isabel, VFR becoming marginal. And for Mentasta, looks like it'll be a marginal VFR day the entire Saturday. And for Tanita, VFR. Portage, starting out marginal, slowly becoming VFR, definitely by the afternoon. And Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels about 8,000 feet here over the central northern interior on into Canada. Sloping down a little bit, 6,000 feet here, North Gulf Coast, in across the Panhandle. Out west, not much of a gradient out there, 8,000 feet, slopes up to about 10,000, western Bering and Aleutians. And for icing, areas of definite area of moisture here in toward the Kuskokwim Valley to the Alaska Range down into northeast Bristol Bay. Could be some mixed icing there of the light to very isolated moderate variety, as well as areas here in the north central interior. Another more solid band of moisture over the eastern interior there from roughly the Porcupine River on down into the Wrangell Mountains. Otherwise icing free out west, and just a chance or risk of some icing here at times over the Panhandle. Looking at the jet stream, 33,000 foot wind flow chart here with 18,000 foot upper level low centers. Got weak upper ridging here up over the north central interior, upper level low Alaska Peninsula, kind of a 50-knot jet here coming down from the northwest into the Aleutians, otherwise the Pacific jet, well to the south of the area. And at 9,000 feet, you can see some ridging popping up here over the western interior. Very light winds, 5 to 10 to 15 maybe over the interior. And down over the panhandle, pretty light winds as well as the Bering Sea, 15 knots up there, St. Lawrence Island to the Bering Strait, 3,000 feet, much the same pattern here. Light winds over the interior, light winds with a high over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, light winds for the Gulf of Alaska and the panhandle. As a consequence, no significant turbulence expected. So after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
It's a complicated project, but a simple life. You can study whales all over the world, you can study harbor seals all over the world, but you cannot study them in silence all over the world. So we really need this sort of piece of wilderness, this untrammeled wilderness, as they say, in order to answer some of these questions.
So we've been monitoring underwater sound here in Glacier Bay since May of 2000. And the reason why we're doing that is to understand what the park is like from the perspective of a marine mammal, because marine mammals are very dependent on the natural sound environment.
If you sort of bring it back to humans, humans respond to noise in very stereotypical ways, and other mammals do the same thing. So, you know, if you go to a concert with your buddy and the music's really loud, you're going to talk at a higher pitch. You're going to talk louder, and you might have to repeat yourself. And marine mammals do the same thing if it gets noisy. So we're seeing, you know, just which of those three that they actually do. We're here on Strawberry Island for the entire summer.
We sample 8 to 12 hours a day. There'll be 2 people who are on our beach station doing scans, marking each whale in the area, 2 people who are doing focal follows from our tower, which is a temporary tower that we have set up here on Strawberry Island. And then we have 2 people who are in the kayak who are doing fine-scale acoustic sampling for harbor seals. Got a harbor seal at 23 meters.
Got it? What's our bearing?
Bearing is 5822121.
Being able to pair what an animal is saying with where the animal is saying it is an amazing data set. It's a hard data set to get. It takes a lot of work, but it can answer so many questions.
So our cruise ship right here in the background is right on time today. We have a blissful hour and a half before the cruise ship gets here where we can watch our whales in silence. And then our ship comes in, bringing with it the noise that it brings, and we watch our whales while the ship's here to see whether or not their behavior is changing. And then it's going to go up bay and bring passengers to go see the glaciers, and we are going to get that blissful quiet again to see whether or not our whales are going back to that natural behavior.
This is the computer that runs our underwater acoustic monitoring. And there's a 5-mile cable from my office that leads out to a hydrophone that's out recording live sounds in Glacier Bay. And if I turn this up a little bit louder for the moment, that's the sound of a male harbor seal roaring because it's the mating season.
Bartlett Cove, Strawberry Island. Building a good field team and building some good camaraderie is really important. We have sort of these daily routines of things that we do together. So there's a schedule that we check every morning, who's gonna cook lunch that day, who's gonna cook dinner. And then every day we take a group photo. And then every day we do a daily check-in. We talk about what worked that day, what didn't work that day, and what we learned either from the island or from each other over the course of the day. Surface 900600.
Last night, there were anywhere from 8 to 10 individuals right along the kelp bed off the point. We were trying to figure out exactly what they were doing. So as acousticians, Michelle and I got a hydrophone.
That seemed like the right thing to do.
Put the hydrophone in the water to see what was going on. Well, we dropped the hydrophone and it was so quiet. There was not a single roar.
Nothing. We heard
It was
nothing.
just so unusual.
One of the things we did observe yesterday was 2 large bull killer whales who had come into the area that we learned today were transient killer whales. They do come into this area to hunt harbor seals. This is a pupping ground. That's what they come in for.
Yep.
We cannot in any way, shape, or form definitively link the presence of mammal-eating killer whales with the silence of harbor seals.
No, but it is quite interesting that they happened at the exact same time. It's always an adventure on Strawberry Island. You never know what the day's gonna bring.
This morning at 5:15 in the morning, the area was just boiling with whales. I had one 15-minute scan this morning where I was literally hopping back and forth on either side of the theodolite, calling out numbers to try and get all the whales as quickly as possible. And then 15 minutes later, we couldn't find them. Aside from getting to be outside all the time, my favorite part of doing my PhD is getting to work with Leanna.
It goes both ways.
It helps when you put 2 minds that think differently onto the same problem.
Global ocean noise is a real problem, and there are areas of the ocean that have underwater sound from vessels so often that you could almost consider it an urban environment. Glacier Bay is a very remote area, and it was set aside as a national park in part to do scientific research. And we're privileged to be able to use it as a natural laboratory where we can better understand the impacts of underwater noise.
There are some places that act like characters in your life, and I think that a lot of Alaskans can resonate with the fact that living here is like having another family member. It's like having somebody really, really important who's sort of nudging you to be a little uncomfortable all the time and to stretch yourself all the time because it's worth it. I've lived here for almost 10 years. I've made Alaska my home, and so I'm an Alaskan by choice.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the sea ice, not a lot of change going on out here. This starting to thin out, or be this blue shaded area, getting a little farther to the north, and also showing up a little bit more here, well, from the central and west side, and then it's also some areas here on the east side, and the Mackenzie River Bay area here continues to expand and thaw. So moving on to the coastal water forecast, west winds 10 knots, pretty light here for tomorrow, all the way up until you get to the north coast. It comes a little more southwesterly, seas 4 to 5 feet. Lynn Canal, small craft advisories, south 25 knots, 5-foot seas, light southwesterlies at 10 for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait, northwest 15. And for Sunday, northwest 10 to 15, central southern inside waters, pretty light. Lynn Canal now down to 15 knots for Sunday with 3-foot seas, while the winds here along the coast pick up, northwest 20, seas 5 to 6 feet, and the extreme north coast still westerly at 15. Prince William Sound, southeast, light, 10 knots, seas slight, 2 feet. And the North Gulf Coast, light southwest breeze, or barely a breeze, with 4-foot seas, all the way back to the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, also southwest at 10 with just 2-foot seas, but Cook Inlet, south to southwest 15, seas running 3 feet. And then for the Sunday forecast, Cook Inlet, south winds, light, south at 10, 2-foot seas, west 15, Kachemak Bay, southwest 15 here for the Barren Islands and western North Gulf Coast, turning westerly here off to the east, but still at 15. Seas only 4 feet. Prince William Sound, winds stay light, southwest 10, 2-foot seas. Kodiak Island, west-southwest at 15 tomorrow, with 3 to as high as 6-foot seas there on the east side. And from Sitkinak to Castle Cape, west at 15. Seas 6 feet, and then lighter winds here down toward Cape Sarachev, still from the west. North side, 15 knots, but only 2-foot seas there. And then Bristol Bay, west at 20, 4-foot seas. A little bit lighter for the winds on Sunday there for Bristol Bay, 15 out of the west. South, 10, 2-foot seas. Otherwise, southwest at 10 here for the area from Cape Sarachev to Sitkinak. Southwest 10 knots, pretty light winds, 3 to 4-foot seas, and 15 knots for Shelikof Strait and the east side of Kodiak Island. Seas there running 3 to 5 feet. Aleutians, High pressure means light winds will give it a westerly direction here. All areas, very uniform, and seas running anywhere from 2 to 5 feet here for the Fox Islands. Otherwise, very slight, 3 to 4 feet, except out west there, up to 6 feet for the seas. And then the outlook for Sunday. Switch the wind direction around everywhere. Now going out of the east, 10 to 15 knots here for the eastern Aleutians, picking up to 15 to 20 out of the east for the central areas, with the Pacific side seas 7 feet up here to the Amchitka Island area, east 20 with 8-foot seas there for the western Aleutians. That means small craft advisories. Southwest coast, west-southwest 15 with 2 to 3 foot seas. Light southerlies there for St. Lawrence Island with 2-foot seas, and southwest 10 to 15, Pribilof, St. Matthew Island. Outlook for Sunday, southwest 15, Norton Sound to St. Lawrence Island. Southwest 10 to 15 here for the southwest coast, and lighter winds for the Pribilofs, northwest at 10. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, northeast at 15 tomorrow, with easterlies central and west side. Really light winds here. 5 knots from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, south of Cape Thompson to the Wales area, southwest 15. And then those pick up even more from Wales up to Cape Beaufort, south 20 knots, seas 6 feet, 5 to 6 feet, south 15 there, mostly south or near Point Lay on down, but getting a little squirrely here, and then turning easterly at 15 on the central coast. That same wind pattern back to the east. And for tonight, mostly cloudy over the interior with diminishing thunderstorms and showers. Chance of showers scattering out along the North Gulf Coast. Also for the Panhandle, less rainfall expected. High pressure controls the Bering Sea. Excuse me. And the outlook for Saturday, drier conditions here in the west, thunderstorms along a couple of troughs over the interior, and scattered showers, Copper River Basin on down the southeast coast. That'll be drying out the next day on Sunday. Still showers, thunderstorms, more clouds on the east side, drier back to the west. High pressure holding over the southeast Bering and Bristol Bay, make for a mostly sunny day around Kodiak.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.